Hey shooters, let's talk airsoft for a second. Now, I know there's a lot of people out there that think airsoft is a game. Their toys are not meant to be used as a training tool, or there's no direct crossover between live fire and airsoft, but I'm here to tell you that there's absolutely a crossover if you train correctly with airsoft. So what we're going to do is we're going to talk about some things that will help you create a better, consistent repetition in maybe it's just fundamentals, seeing what you need to see through your optics, or feeling the gun, with the stance and grip and all the things that are associated with feeling that gun. And then of course trigger control. And we'll talk about those things individually here in a second. But let's talk about pricing first. In a comparison that kind of justifies it for me to actually go out and train with airsoft. But again, it doesn't mean that I'm not going to train on my live gun. Because if I'm on a time crunch, I can't get out to the range, I don't have the ammo available, I'll grab an airsoft gun and go do some work in my garage or a safe area, or go outside. If you're allowed to do that, of course, check with your local or state laws to make sure that that you can do that. You don't get your ass in trouble shooting one of these things outside in your backyard. But take a look at the ammo. Let's say I want to go to the range with my live fire gun. I got to buy about 300 rounds of ammo is probably what I put in a good range session that day. You're looking at approximately $120, $556 now. Now, of course, that depends what kind of ammo you buy. But you're looking at that cost. You're looking at going to get the ammo, getting to the range, maybe gas, maybe you don't live near a range. Then you might have range fees that you got to pay. So the cost starts to build up. And that's why I see a lot of people don't get out to the range as much as they should, because in today's economy, it's tough to do that. So let's again talk about the airsoft and how we can cross these things over and combine the trainings together. Cost of an airsoft gun. Looking for an airsoft gun. When you're out there, make sure that you find a reputable airsoft manufacturer, okay, or find a good distributor or dealer. Don't just go to your local stores and find one sitting on the shelf. It's probably going to be a piece of junk, or it's not going to work or have a good lifespan. Now, these things are cool, and as you can see, I've got 2 Mark 16s, and I've got 2 M4 set up here, short barrels. Now, one's airsoft, one's live. You can see they're almost identical set up by some muzzle device and stuff, which obviously airsoft, it doesn't really matter muzzle device wise. But my optics are identical, my rail systems are identical if I'm running lasers or lights, foregrips, all that stuff is very consistent to my live gun. Recoil systems on these guns are pretty unique nowadays. They have a recoil shock system, and some of these newer, like these Tokyo Maries, they actually will cycle in, like the SCAR for example, it will actually reciprocate the charging handle. So as you fire, the charging handle reciprocates just like your real SCAR. So, and of course you get a little bit of a recoil feel, which is kind of nice, because even with this recoil not being as substantial as a live fire round, you still have to snap your sights back on target. So again, it's not totally real, but again, I'm working through those fundamentals. If I'm working on just feet work, or maybe doing a stage or something, I can do it on the cheap by using airsoft, and then test that training with live fire. So again, recap on that. Looking for a gun, make sure it's a reputable gun. Make sure it's going to last for you, and make sure you can set it up consistently to what you use as a live fire gun. Cost. We talked about cost with live fire. Let's talk about cost with airsoft. Obviously, you have the initial cost of the gun itself, and if you get a good reputable brand airsoft gun, it's going to cost a little bit. But again, it's going to last longer. Ammo. If you buy ammo for airsoft, compared to that $120 mark for 300 rounds, you can spend about $15 and get 1,000 rounds. Like here's some biodegradable, 1,000 rounds of biodegradable. It's about 15 bucks. But it's great. You don't have to pick up anything. Now, if you want to run the regular airsoft ammo that's not biodegradable, you're going to spend about the same, but get about 3,000 rounds. So if you have like an ammo catch or something that you can put up a box or something that catches all the beads, you don't have to go pick it up. So think about that as you're setting up your targeting, depending on which type of ammo you use. If you're going outside, use your biodegradable ones. Spend a little bit more, but just don't leave 1,000 BBs laying around. So that kind of cool thing is, all I need is a safe area. I can do it in a hallway. I can do it in a garage. I could do it in some type of bay or some safe area. I can do it in my backyard. Just make sure you check with your state and local laws to make sure that you can actually run around in your backyard with one of these things and not have a SWAT team coming after you. So again, that's all I need. I don't need to go to the range. I don't need to spend all that money on ammo. You buy a couple cases for 30 bucks of airsoft ammo, keep it aside, you've got ammo to train with for months. Now, let's talk about some of the things that cross over fundamentally. Let's start with safety, okay? Safety is just the same with airsoft, or I treat it the same as I do live fire. I do my firearm safety rules. You want to treat it as a real weapon, okay? This will help when you go pick up a live fire gun. You're building consistency with safety with your airsoft gun. And plus, if you hit somebody with one of these things and they're not wearing protective gear, it's going to hurt. It's going to bust skin, hit somebody in the eye. You're going to put an eye out with this thing. So you can cause some serious damage. So again, treat it as a real weapon. Don't point at anything you don't intend to destroy. Okay, same thing with the live fire, because I'm building that mechanical subconscious weapon safety. So when I do pick this thing up again, I'm making sure 1,000% that my training is consistent between the two, and this is where it does cross over. Okay, keep your finger straight off the trigger until you're coming up on target with the intent to fire. Same thing as live fire. So keep working that with an airsoft gun. Be aware of your target's foreground and background when you fire. This is a big one. Obviously, we know in live fire, I don't want to shoot through something, a wall, wood, or steel, or glass, or a vehicle. So again, I'm crossing those two over, because that rule really follows you out in life. If you're law enforcement, or you're a competitor, or you're military, and you have a foreground or background issue, you have to take that into consideration. So if you are in that situation and you're timid about shooting around something, specifically a vehicle or a barricade, you've never really done it, get an airsoft gun and start practicing. Build yourself up in confidence and good weapons manipulation around that obstacle, whatever it may be. So when you do pick up that live fire gun, now all you got to deal with is the loud recoil and just being safe, and again, just like you were with the airsoft gun. So again, we're building that consistency between the two with just that simple safety rule. Fundamentals. All right, fundamentals are something that you can work with this. I have my fundamental 3 that I work on. Obviously, we have feel of the gun. How does it feel in my hands, okay? Obviously, I've got my live gun here. I'm gonna get that good solid grip on the gun and my good stance. I'm gonna feel the percentage that I need to put into the core to be able to manage the recoil. I'll do the same exact stance consistently with the airsoft gun. It feels the same, it looks the same, and it even somewhat acts the same. So I'm feeling that, seeing what I need to see. I've got the same optics on here. So when I come up on the target, I can drive the gun up, I can snap it to different targets, I can work back and forth multiple targets. Now, of course, it's not going to be as realistic, but you're still seeing a dot. You're still putting it on a target. You're acquiring something. Your eyes are working with consistent repetition between these exactly the same. Trigger control, which is the final of the 3, the fundamental 3. Okay, the finger. What is this doing? Now, I'll tell you that if you run a live gun, obviously we know we fire, bolt cycles, we reset, we fire. Okay. Now with an airsoft gun, it's a little different. So it fires, reset. If you can hear that click, fire, reset. So it's exactly the same as far as how the trigger works. It just feels a little bit different, but you're still resetting. And what's funny about these electronic guns, when you pull this trigger, you obviously are sending an electronic message to the gears to actually fire the gun. So there can be somewhat of a lull. I can't shoot an airsoft gun as fast as I can shoot a live gun, but it actually helps me better to work on my finger, my trigger control, because if I start really working this trigger and slap it or come off of it or short stroke it, the airsoft gun is going to tell you if your trigger control is off quicker than your live fire gun. So that's kind of a cool feature with the trigger control. All right, loading. Let's talk about tack reloading and speed reloading. Very consistent, very much of a crossover right here. Magazine inserts just like a live fire gun. The cool thing about some of these newer guns like this Tokyo Marui, this M4, when you fire this mag out and the mag runs dry, what'll happen is it will go dead just like a real M4, okay? So what's gonna happen is it's gonna fire, and then on that last round, fire again until all of a sudden the bolt walks to the rear. As you can see, the bolt catch is actually engaged. It will not fire again until I do a speed reload, okay? And it still won't fire until, guess what? I hit the bolt catch. Now it fires again. So again, very realistic crossover there with airsoft versus live fire on loading. Other things, positions, prone position, supine position, kneeling position, all the positions that you want to train in works with this gun. So you can save the money and work on just your movements. You can work on your efficiency, dropping down into the prone or the kneeling or the urban prone or the supine as quickly as possible and getting consistent with just the motions. But the fundamentals are still there. You're still feeling the gun, you're still seeing what you need to see, and you're still using that trigger control appropriately. Okay, so again, all those positions work. Obstacles. Let's talk about shooting around barricades, vehicles, walls, anything that you want to put in front of you or behind you or in just a little tactical environment that you can move around. Great concept, okay? Airsoft around those vehicles. I don't want to shoot my own vehicle with live fire or because sometimes it happens, you have height over bore issues, so I can train with airsoft. If I hit my car with an airsoft BB and it skips off the hood, you're not going to have much damage, okay? Hopefully you don't have any damage, but unless it's a direct hit, you can ding your car. So be careful with that. But again, if you don't want to splash yourself, frag yourself on metal, glass, or whatever the case may be on your vehicle with a live fire gun, work airsoft. Get consistent with the height over bore, the offset that you need from the vehicle, and the movement around that vehicle. Get confident with that, set it down, switch into live fire mode, and then work through it slowly until you start picking up your consistency that you had with the airsoft gun. So that's a great training tool when you're working around obstacles. Force on force. Force on force is a whole different level that you can take airsoft to. A lot of fun, number one, but at the same time, you're building stress. Okay, you're training consistently to inoculate the stress. That's the biggest thing that we can't do on a daily basis, specifically if you're not in the military, you're not in a SWAT or an entry type team where you get time allotted monthly or daily to go out and actually train in high stress scenario mode. So what you can do is either with a buddy or a couple guys, get together, whether you're a law enforcement team or a military team or just a bunch of competitive shooters or something, or you want to just go out and have fun, you can create that stress. Okay, when you start getting shot at with these, they hurt. So you know you don't want to get shot, so you actually work in tactics. Now, a lot of people get carried away with simunitions or man marker type, UTM munitions or airsoft, and they forget the reality. So if you're gonna do force on force, make sure you're doing it properly. Make sure you're not doing something with an airsoft gun that you would not do with a live fire gun. So just make sure you put your restrictions on yourself when you're doing force on force. But the stress inoculation is huge. That's what I really look for with force on force. So if you decide to use airsoft in your training regimen, just make sure that you're doing it as consistently and realistically as you would with a live fire weapon system. There's obviously a lot of things that we can do with airsoft that we can do with live fire. Obviously there's more we can do with live fire than airsoft, like zeroing a gun or shooting at longer ranges, things like that. But all the fundamental stuff, I use it to increase my performance, fundamentals. The feel, seeing what I need to see, trigger control, movement from box A to B, shooting balance of speed and accuracy or combat effectiveness templates up close, using it for force on force. So there's a lot of crossover between your training, whether you're a competitor or you're out there putting foot to ass for our country or protecting our streets. You can use this as another tool to increase your survivability. So check it out, try one out, and take it for what it's worth. I'm Travis Haley, thanks for joining me.